And this is your daily sigh of relief. If you're an entrepreneur trying to keep up with what actually matters, this is for you. I go live every single day at 6 p.m. Eastern, tell you what I think is going on in the world, and then I invite some of the smartest people that I know in order to join me on the council to discuss what we do, y'all. How do we stay ahead, keep up, seize opportunities? Uh, what do we do? How do we build? Where do we go? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It sounds like I'm killing time. It's because I am trying to get my little document here to load up. My name is Kasim. If you don't know who I am, serial entrepreneur with a desperate need to be liked. And so I go live on social media in order to try to build my audience and grow my following. And I think that this is the very last thing that humanity is going to have left, to be honest with you, is authority. And I'm trying to build mine. So, doing the best that I can do. This is the Daily Sigh. You can join the Sigh live. Just go to dailysigh.ai, join my free forever community. And the Zoom link will be in the calendar. If you want these calls summarized and sent to your inbox, that's super easy to do as well. Just go to dailysigh.ai and you can subscribe to daily and or weekly. And with that said, let me open this up to the illustrious council. I've got Neil, Clinton, Deborah, Elliot to kill some of these note takers. What's up, y'all? Here comes Jason Croft. Hello, hello. Neil says, can't unmute. Thank you, Neil. This is how I lord my power over people. I just invite them onto Zoom calls, but I don't let them unmute or enable their camera. And it just makes me feel good about myself. Try now. I think I fixed it. Bam! We did it.
There.
There. Today will be I'm gonna try to stick to the hour, just full disclosure. My eldest has neurofeedback training and I have to leave right at 4 o'clock PST to jump. So just to manage expectations. And then it's family movie night. I'm gonna check with the ex-wife and see if I'm allowed to show them John Wick because it's my turn to pick. And then tomorrow I've got the kids' last soccer game, the obligatory everybody gets a trophy, and then we're going to Black Rock Bouldering Gym because we got gift cards for their birthday. So that's my weekend. Y'all do anything fun?
The birthday party.
Yours or somebody else's?
Somebody else's. One of the children's.
One of the chillins. How many kids do you have again? Three?
Two.
Two.
Yeah. So oldest turned 12 a few weeks ago, but now we're having the actual party.
Nice. That's awesome, man. I like kids' birthdays parties. I get a ton. I get a lot out of them. Jason, my middle son is 18 today, dude. No way. You start when you're 4? How'd you do that? Yeah, must be. All right. Who's got something? Neil, you had a something to share in the WhatsApp group. You created, what was it? A video something?
A video production stack, I guess I would call it.
What is that? Show us how to
Well,
do it.
I'll show you. So I'm a financial guy, as you guys know. So today's my last day of vacation because Monday back to the office. So the kinds of things financial guys do on vacation is come up with 3-year growth models for their businesses, which is super exciting, I'm sure, for everybody. And um, it's kind of a sensitivity analysis, like what levers will grow, because I want a 10x over the next couple of years, basically, is the goal. And we're working with Perplexity, which is my AI engine of choice these days. And I was saying to it that what I feel is missing is like I could do acquisitions, I can buy other firms. I've done that before. We're launching a fractional CFO offer to HVAC industry, which is fine. But we're missing like a front end offer, like a self-liquidating offer to bring clients in, from cold traffic. And Perplexity told me I was right because all AI engines will tell you that you're right. And we started talking about it. And I was thinking about John's call a couple weeks ago. I trained a Perplexity skill on his SOP, and I think I took the transcript from the call. I don't know. I created a call for his, top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom of funnel structure, testing the hooks at the top of the funnel and then driving everybody into the bottom of the funnel through creative targeting on Meta. And with that in mind, the Perplexity and I came up with an offer. It's a $47 diagnostic call kind of for our target market. And so then the next question became, well, okay, how do I do that? Because I am not a content guy as much as I try to be sometimes. And it came up with this whole thing. Here's a whole campaign mapped out, campaign architecture based on John. And when I say John, I'm talking about John Moran. Um, his ad budget or ad set budget methodology, testing hooks. Here's a bunch of top of funnel creatives hooks to do. And I'm reading all this and I'm like, wow, that looks like a lot of work. So, um, and so I gave it some feedback, say, hey, I look at this and the biggest stumbling block for me is recording all these videos. So we did a couple things. So one was I took an inventory of what I have. So software that I already have, tools that I already have. I've got an iPhone, I've got a couple different web cameras. I've got this headset that I'm on. I've got green screen, although this is not actually the green screen behind me, but I've got my home office, I've got the office, and all these different assets, right? I've got HeyGen and all that kind of stuff. And so it went through and it said my number one gaps are, a better microphone, a tripod for the camera, a lavalier mic, and a fill light for the green screen. And so it told me what to order. I ordered $200 worth of stuff on Amazon. It'll be here on Sunday. And um, and then from there, I said, okay, you got to break this down for me in an SOP that is very easy to follow step by step. And so it's one of these. Yeah, scorecard, video production. The scorecard is the product, the video production SOP. And I told it to give me timelines of everything. And day zero, kit test, script lock, environment prep. Day one, record all on camera, voiceover segments. Day two, work with the HeyGen avatar. Yada, 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 which is all just based on the stuff that I have, right? And so it's giving me a step by step, stuff to record. And there's a whole bunch of stuff. And then I said to it, and I'm almost regretting this. I said, well, if I'm going to do all this setup stuff, you know, I can record more things and then, we can mix and match and create, additional, ad creatives, as needed. And so it said, great idea. And so it gave me 50, I think, different things to record. Uh, which might be too much. All different angles, trying to, because John's SOP is basically hook testing on angle. So,
Mm.
you know, if the angle is eliciting the pain point, try testing different messages on that. Or if it's curiosity driven, try different testing different things on that. And when I saw all this, I messaged Mitch Barham, a friend of ours, me and Costumes, and I was like, "Hey, can you do this?" And he was like, "Yeah, we're busy."
Ah,
He said it nicer than that, um, but that was kind of the upshot. So, over the next week or two, I will get the stuff delivered on Sunday, and then I'll start recording, and I'm going to build out a library, and we now have a schema. When I say we, I mean me and Perplexity. We have a schema for how to record and then store those assets and then tag them in a Google Sheet, basically um, to identify what pieces we have for iterative creative creation, in the near future to build up this campaign.
dude, that's
So
badass.
yeah, that's what I
What
spent the last couple hours doing.
you were calling Mitch for media buy or for what?
For creatives.
Oh, for creatives. Okay. I was about to say, I know who John pays to do his buys, by the way.
Yeah.
I would share that with you, Neil, but only you.
Okay, that's fair.
This is
So
awesome, dude.
yeah,
I like this a lot. Um,
as you could tell, I'm a systems kind of guy. So
yeah. Uh, I want to maybe reciprocate. Can I show you what my EA built me? I'm trying to think about how I do this so I don't perjure myself here. Here we go. So I am shooting YouTube videos and I'm actually trying to be really, really, really like diligent with it. And so he built me this full YouTube creator studio, which kind of reminded me of what you were just showing me in terms of like an assembly line for content. This is copy driven. I don't want content that feels forced or AI'd. I want it to be ultra unique. And when I just hit record and sprechen the bushy babble, as I call it, um, it tends to be kind of rambly, as everybody here knows, because I like to rambly. And so we've found a way to bridge the gaps. What we do is I come up with my whatever, my idea, and then I write out or generally actually kind of record in advance, but I do it poorly. So I'll speak into my phone or I'll just shoot a Loom video, and then I load it here, and then he's giving it everything, um, everything about me, and then everything that we believe. Like the 100 title frameworks is the 100 best titles for my avatar. Um, and I think we actually stole this from somebody's YouTube training and then modified it for ourselves. So, and then when it's done, like what it creates is like really, really good. And it pumps out this entire, show you the output. So like I'm about to shoot this video, Silence is Negligence, and it's my script that I loaded with all my assets and resources and first principles documents and all that garbage. But it helps me come up with the best thumbnail based off of, what we thought was important for imagery and the best title based what. And then it just puts it all together. So it's kind of, I think it's an effective use of AI because I'm not having AI speak for me. It's still my words. But then it puts together this production document and it gives my editor ideas and not over indexes in that direction. And then it helps me with, hook, promise, because I always forget to do that shit. Like I'm not Fladlin. Fladlin does that automatically. He just knows to do it. I don't. And so it's like, hey, here's your script, but with the hook and a promise and open loops and close loops and close out and the final payoff. And then I take that, I load it in my teleprompter, and then I shoot my video. So I don't know if that's helpful at all, Neil, but as you were showing me yours, I wanted to show you mine.
Yeah, I mean that looks awesome. As far as having a uh, it's all about having the step by step because the
Yeah.
hardest thing to do is think and make decisions. And if you can shortcut that in like I know we've been overusing the word context lately, but it
We
has
have, you have 60% Neil.
that's possible. Uh, but if your system like so you have all those documents that are yours, the great thing about Perplexity is that every task has the memory of every other task in Perplexity Computer.
I didn't know that.
Uh, yeah, so sometimes you have to nudge it a little bit, but it can find anything from any other task, which is great. So it builds up that context for you of all the things we've been talking about for however many months. And I guess it's been 1 month or so on Perplexity Computer. But yeah, then you can create those pipelines of moving the piece of content or whatever through where you don't have to sit down and make those decisions every time because that's the hardest thing to do.
Hmm. Yeah, I think there's a lot of wisdom to that. The hardest thing to do is make decisions. That's awesome, man. Thanks for sharing that. Thanks for going first. We had another hand raise. It was Elliot. Elliot says, I had a long chat with two interesting people this week, a senior guy at JP Morgan's family office management and a pretty senior guy at one of Europe's biggest VC firms. Elliot, if you want to tell us what you learned, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I was just feasting.
Uh-oh.
It's been a pretty long day, so
I
full
just
on
eat on camera. I'm so uncouth. I don't have it in
Nosferatu
there.
over here, hiding away in the corner. Um, yeah, no, I think a lot of my conversations that I have, quite frankly, are like totally useless to most people. But these two I think are quite interesting because I think it gave a breadth of perspective to even people who own kind of normal businesses outside of investment. Because I also actually had a chat with a friend who owns a private fund. So it's like they're like the big three categories, right?
Hmm.
Um, the venture capitalists at the moment. I think it's definitely true that the application layer AI wrappers are totally dead for investment. We would all imagine common sense would say that, but it's interesting to hear it confirmed. But what was very interesting for the VC guys is it seems that they're all breaking their own rules of risk just to get access to infrastructure level AI. So they are all essentially going all in on just getting as much exposure as possible to infrastructure level plays with AI. Now, it's also very interesting to hear for European VC, but he fundamentally, I think the dynamic there globally isn't going to change. The US is the place to be. Neil, infrastructure is in like not the application layer wrappers that we've seen kind of do relatively well with funding, like uh, there's been quite a few. I mean, I'm sure we've all seen them. I think the fundamentals here are everybody's trying to build the next rocket ship instead of just stick their part on it. That's what they're all trying to get exposure to.
So are you talking data centers or chip manufacturers or what?
All of the above.
Okay.
I think they're all. I don't think the investment for this side of things is going to slow down. Actually, um, at all, at least for a year or so. Which is kind of crazy, right? Because all the similarities are similar to the dot-com bubble. I mean, I think Greg mentioned this the other day, right?
It was
Um,
funny to hear him say that. I was like, is this new? And he's like, no, no, not new. And there are nuances that are different, obviously, but there's something about it that was a little relaxing to and for me to hear somebody like that be like, no, dude, same shit, different day. Um, but I think it depends on your lens, obviously, right? Like, if you're a farmer and there's a agricultural revolution, like that really is Armageddon for you. And so it depends, I think, on where you're sitting.
yeah, and I actually just managed to get back here in a Waymo as well, and it's like, oh man, I am worried about the drivers. I think that's the thing
Yeah.
not enough people are thinking about because if you do supplement your income with driving, which is the largest job internationally, it's by far the largest job, low skill job. I think that's gonna flip relatively soon because all that's really waiting for is the right legislation to go through in the US as well. In the UK, that legislation's already through. Actually, they got ahead of it weirdly. But man,
Where did they land with that? What is I mean, I imagine there's some guardrails, especially given the way they legislate.
yeah, I mean the testing for it's been done relatively slowly in the US, right? They tested in Phoenix and San Francisco for quite a few years now. And now it's been public for quite a few years, and they're slowly building up the fleet. Waymo specifically is the largest self-driving company is still burning, you know, I think $2.5 billion a year for Google. Um, I don't know if anyone knows this, but it's actually quite a fun part of it is that like Google basically has so much money they can have I think they classify it literally as experiments and advances section of their sub companies. I think that's how they clarify it in the quarterlies. But they just burn billions and billions of dollars a year on these industries they think they can get ahead of. So Waymo being one of them. But what's very interesting is I think I saw for this month for the first ever time that Waymo actually reduced their cost a lot more than Uber and Lyft. I think Uber and Lyft were up about 10% in cost, and Waymo I think was down about 10% in cost in terms of to the consumer.
Did you
So,
hear that Elon's gonna let his robo taxis, it's 420 per ride, regardless of distance for a year?
well, I didn't hear that, but I have to say this is what I constantly harp on about to everybody that will listen to me. I am so looking forward to competition in the automated driving space.
Hmm.
Because right now, obviously, we've got Waymo, but no other significantly large fleets. As soon as we have that, they will be fighting over the market space, and good Lord, taxis will become cheap.
Well,
So
and because they're not, at least it appears from the outside looking in, they're not just trying to monetize the ride. It's the data acquisition. There's so much data available to them that can be monetized in different ways. And so it's almost like they could give us rides for free or for at cost, at least the fuel cost, in order to just, I mean, even the attention is really valuable. All of those Ubers now have ads. I thought that was so tacky the first time I got in an Uber and this little prick's got an LCD screen in my face. You know what I mean? I'm like, of course y'all figure this out. And I don't know how they monetized that then. I don't think that was Uber. I think that was the driver. But yeah, the thing that I thought was kind of cool, I heard somebody talk about the pods because I don't want to sit, I won't do shared anything. I don't want to sit next to a smelly stranger or a good smelling stranger. Like there's too many variables in either direction. But they're taking these vehicles and they're closing them off. And you would basically it'd be like a first class seat on an airline. And I'd put my kid in that, like, oh, you got to go to mom's, put them in the safe, secure thing. Only I can lock it, only she can unlock it, type of whatever. Um, so that the fact that all of our cars sit idle about 90% of the time is insane. What an expensive asset to just let sit there. Um, so unlocking that I think is going to be really, really interesting. Jacob, your hands up.
Yeah, so I have an interesting take on that, and I wonder. So I'm in Scottsdale, and I love Waymo. I've used Waymo like I think I used it a dozen times last year. I think that it will take jobs away, but Waymos are gonna have a higher standard of maintenance, and so they're gonna have to have a lot more mechanics working on these cars to make sure they stay up. So there's gonna be there's gonna be an uptick in the need for mechanics because like my car. I could have the tires be bald and the rotor shot and drive it for a year and nobody cares. It's my own reliability. So I wonder what Elliot thinks about this because with a Waymo, you can't do that. The tires have to be updated, the rotors have to be updated, the everything has to be very well maintained. And so there's going to be an uptick in the need for mechanics in the near future.
Hmm.
no, 100%. I mean, we're gonna have Kasim, the thing you mentioned, very interestingly, the ads boards in a bunch of countries, that's actually been like a totally third party company sometimes, right? Where it's like, how can I help the drivers make a bit more money? There's little ecosystems, and there will be new ecosystems here, right? It's like you go back to all the things that changed and the apocalypse being called about horses disappearing in exchange for cars. It's a very similar exchange, really, except it's just a different form of car. Um, I will say this
Problem
much
is,
though, Jacob, is I totally your point about Waymo's being much higher cost. Yeah, that's actually one of the big interesting things I think we all need to pay attention to is I think Waymo will eventually potentially lose against anyone just using advanced camera technology just because of the cost of LiDAR that Waymo's use. If I recall correctly, they're like ridiculously higher capex per car because of them choosing to use that for the navigation.
yeah,
Yeah,
they went the wrong direction is what everybody seems to think and say, because you
well,
don't
that's what
necessarily,
Elon says. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, a Waymo to put a Waymo on the road is something like $140,000. It's much higher than
I think Elon is
you know.
the only one in that industry that says cameras are better than LiDAR. And then also Teslas are the only ones that run people over in the fog because they can't
Well,
see.
so so
Yeah.
here's the problem with any of those statements is that they leave off the economic side of things. It's because it's like better at what cost, right? So LiDAR will get you a better resolution of the surrounding space for sure. Everybody agrees on the science of that, but it's 3 or 4 times as expensive. So how does that balance out in the actual deployment of a fleet and providing services for the customers per the incident rate differential between the LiDAR system and the camera system and all those kinds of calculations? So
Is it also speed of computation? Isn't that part of Elon's argument too, is that it's faster computing that than making the translation of like whatever signal they're getting from LiDAR into. I thought there was either or it's the opposite. Like one of them had a like a more of a lag time.
probably true at scale.
It's funny, I'm on X. I'm trying to figure out, like, I have been under the impression this entire time that this was more or less a consensus and that Waymo made the wrong decision early and are just committed. And what Dylan just said is so funny because it just let me know my echo chamber is so echoey. You know what I mean? Like I'm looking at, it's just funny. Basically maybe just a bunch of Elon puppets and parrots.
I've said it before
Uh,
on this call
Yep.
Said what?
that like Elon says that all the other automatic car companies are idiots for using LiDAR.
Oh
We had a
yeah,
discussion on it. It wasn't just like an offhanded thing. It was a
that's
topic
funny.
that came up and we discussed.
Yeah. Well, just let you know how indoctrinatable I am. That's so funny.
You've got about 30 minutes. There's a 30-minute window, Dylan,
Yeah.
and you've
Yeah.
got
My
to.
context window is short. Mercury
I,
doesn't help either.
I will say as well, the other part of that was talking with the family fund manager. They're all pulling back a bit on risk to see what happens, but they're all very, very interested in commodities
Hmm.
and the family fund
So
side of
I
things.
have a comment on that only because I know some of these folks. There's the people that own the money and the people that deploy the money are two different people. Usually, right? And there's maybe like a Venn diagram here, and I don't know how much overlap there is, but what I've seen is you've got the funds, which is people with money, and then you have the people that manage the funds. And generally speaking, the people that manage the funds don't have tons of money. They're like, who's the douchebag kid from The Big Short who's also a New Girl? You know what I'm talking about? I forget his name, but they're like that guy in The Big Short. They're just bros. They're just they pretend to have money. They pretend to be VCs or M&As or whatever, but they're basically like just, MLM. They're like the realtor equivalent of the finance world. And they only make money when they deploy. That's the crazy part. Like these people make money by spending other people's money. And so their interests are not aligned right now in this environment, in this ecosystem. The guy or gal, but it's mostly men, to be honest with you. Um, it's a very broy environment if you've been around them. Like they have to invest, they have to deploy, they have to spend, they have to buy, they have to. And the thing that's always struck me as really weird is they actually don't care about returns as long as it fits within the buy box. They spend, they get their commission, and they move on and they're dying on the vine. So the idea that now's a bad time to deploy, or we need to be cautious about risk, or we need to see where things are going, yeah, that's true for the smart money. But I actually don't think the people managing money, like they're very, very short-sighted. Um, as a near ubiquitous truth, a la The Big Short. Like when you really dig into that, and Greg, by the way, ran the bank that brought down Lehman Brothers, was brought in to save it. They didn't listen to a thing that he said, sadly. He was right the entire time. It's so much so that he beat the FDIC in open court. Um, like it was nuts, but it was a bunch of short-sighted douchebags just realizing that I'm playing hot potato, and as long as I'm not holding the potato, what does it matter?
But what's crazy about that is that obviously that was the family funds guy where
Yeah.
they're all risk averse, and then the private fund guy I spoke to, he's got his own fund about 160 million. They're doing 170% return over year
Hmm.
because they're just investing in tons of private equity and AI. So yeah, like, it's really interesting to see the differences between the approaches, and yeah.
Yeah. Even cause like I'm in Kamal's fund. Kamal's got a 2 and 20 fund, which means he gets 2% on all the money that he takes in annually, and then he gets 20% of any lift. That's 2 and 20. And I guess all these funds are 2 and 20. That's like the Ray Dalio is 2 and 20. That's
The old-fashioned standard. Yeah.
it. Yeah. So that's been the baseline. And you can find people that do a little less for a little more, whatever, but 2 and 20 is the rule. Here's the thing that's really interesting, is I did the math on the two. And if I were Kamal, I could live on that forever. You know what I mean? It's like the 20, and I know he gets it because his fund outperforms most funds, and he's been able to prove it historically. And the 20 could just be let me pretend as though our interests are aligned, and I'm gonna run around banking on the two. They do this in fix and flips. I was in real estate I flipped houses for 7 years, or sold leads to people who flipped houses. And what people don't realize is it's a full-on con job. Wholesalers, there's one at my house right now, close to me. I live in a neighborhood called Scottsdale Ranch, and Scottsdale Ranch has 5,000 some odd homes, and there's this man-made lake in the middle of it, and Kurt Warner lives here. And it's one of those places where the variability in the price of the house is significant. There's a $500,000 house and there's a $10 million house, which means you can take a $500,000 house and you can add square footage to it and rehab it, and you can make it a $3 or $4 million house reasonably. And so there's a house down the street from me that's $2.5 million that they'll never get. And my neighbors are having a conversation about how can people be so stupid? And what they don't realize is it's part of the con. It's a long con. A wholesaler comes in and buys the house for it does not matter what amount of money. They convince a bunch of investors, which are really just dipshits that have money that shouldn't, and I'm one of them, that this is a good flip. They buy the house. Let's say they buy it for I don't know what $1 million, and then they put a 500,000 into the house or 1,750,000, whatever, and then they go and they list the house for some high number. The money they make is on the rehab because they're also, by the way, independent contractors and they hire themselves to do the work, and then it's on the commission for selling the house. They don't give a shit about the flip because 80% of the flip goes to the LPs and they're the GPs. So what they do is they list it from some obscene number that makes all the investors think like, oh, they're doing what they said that we were going to do and the comps support this number. And then it doesn't sell. And they're like, oh gosh, the market's really beating us up, man. Never seen this before. And then they drop it and then they drop it and they drop it. And it does not matter where they drop it to because no matter what, they get their 3% commission and they've made all the money as the contractor. And then the investors are like, oh, that was just an unlucky break. And they will rinse and repeat this model hundreds of times, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. And I saw this happen. I was in this business for 7 years. It's rough, and not all of them, but a lot of them. And that's the brokerage business. It's true for houses, like it's true for cars, like it's true for businesses, like it's true for, you know, equities. Uh, it's weird that your interests are not aligned with the person that's helping you broker these deals. And what we're looking at right now is we're looking at the ecosystem as a whole. The trading capability of the ecosystem is in question, but the traders still need to pay their mortgages. And so it's like we're watching people who are actually they're doing things that feel so it's almost absurd. But if you look at it on a micro scale, it's like, no, it makes sense. That guy's not making a good decision for a year from now. He's making a good decision for the end of April because he just needs to hit whatever bullshit commission comp structure he has in play. Anyway, sorry. I don't know if that was helpful or not, but I think that it's like, it's important for us to know there's no such thing. This whole Adam Smith invisible hand markets are intelligent. It's not true. I was at Costco. Where's my receipt? I'll show you guys. I made $1,000 at Costco yesterday or 2 days ago. I'm at Costco with my kids and I find 100-ounce silver bars for sale for 10-ounce silver bars for sale for like 7 something, 780. And I'm like, spot's 79. You have to pay usually 10% above spot. So if I go to JM Bullion or APMEX, it's 870. And I get 2% back because I'm an executive member. And I get 2% back, or no, 3%, or maybe it's 2% because of my credit card. And I bought all of the ones that they would let me buy. And I did the math. I made $1,000 on the buy at freaking Costco on a silver arbitrage. Markets aren't efficient. And we think they are, though. And we're looking at this and we're looking at all the shit that's happening in the world and we're like, oh, this must make sense to somebody smarter than me. And I don't think that's the case. Like I've always thought there were some eggheads in some Goldman Sachs office backed by some eccentric computer that had spreadsheets that I didn't have that just knew so much more than me. And I just don't think that's true anymore. You know what I mean? Like, because they're all comped wrong. They're not comped to actually know. They're comped to like game the system in the short term.
There
So
are a
I'd love
few,
for somebody to challenge me on that.
definitely. There are a few very smart trading firms like Jane Street who essentially just manipulate the markets as well.
Mm.
And there are quant funds as well, but that is not the majority of funds, especially not anymore. And it would be good to get Neil's thoughts on this as well. But I also find it very funny that hedge funds are still called hedge funds when they really don't properly hedge things at all. Yeah.
Yeah, that is really funny. Neil?
Yeah, they're LBO funds, but the my challenge to you, Cosm, is that it's not that people are smarter. I mean, there's smart people everywhere. There's dumb people everywhere. It's the invisible hand idea is that people acting in their own best interest, like arbitraging $1,000 of silver at Costco, creates bid and sell pressure on the market to eventually arrive at some equilibrium price. So it's not that there's special actors. It's that people act. That's causes that shift, and it's never perfect,
Everybody
right?
is what you're saying, right? Like
Yeah.
that's just, yeah. I like what you said in chat. Wall Street is the only place that people ride to in a Rolls Royce to get advice from those who take the subway.
Yeah, that's an old Warren Buffett quote.
That's so good. I remember I was trying to open an IRA and somebody introduced me to their like personal financial manager or whatever. And the guy came over, his name was Charlie. I won't give you his last name, but Charlie came over and he's got like, nice Italian suit and cufflinks and he smells good and and he's all greased up and we're having conversations back and forth. And at one point he says something, um, I forget what the soundbite was, man, that gave it away, but I started asking questions and I realized I was like, I have more money than this guy. And then I went and I looked up the name of the IRA he's trying to put me in, and on Reddit, some disgruntled employee had published the commissions. And I was like, oh, dude, you're just a used car salesman. You know what I mean? But like it was so young and I didn't realize at the time that like those finance guys, yeah, it's like everybody acts. That's such a good way to put it, Neil.
Yeah. The Jordan Belfort, Wolf of Wall Street guy.
Yeah.
If you see some of his talks over, I don't know, I probably saw him like 10 years ago. So after he got out of jail and,
Yeah. We talked
allegedly,
about him coming to talk at Driven, by the way. He wanted $250,000.
he has a whole bit about how stockbrokers are just, telephone salespeople, but higher class.
Yeah. Jacob, you got your hand up?
Yeah, don't you think though with the arbitrage thing at Costco that 99.9% of people aren't going to realize that, so it's not really an economic
100%. Bro, I
problem?
look at spot price every single day. So that's what it is. I know spot, and so I happen to see, and that's not the first time that's happened to me. I was going through an antique mall once, and somebody had their silver out, like the forks and knives and whatever. And I know what scrap metal's worth, and I was like, I'm buying all that. And that's Jeff Hoffman has this really beautiful talk that he does. Jeff Hoffman he was one of the co-founders of Priceline. I think he's a billionaire at this point with a B. We could get Jeff on the call actually if y'all wanted to hear from him. He's a really, really good dude. I like him a lot. Uh, he talks about info sponging. And one of his biggest exits, his whole thing is he goes, I go get information that I wouldn't have access to otherwise. So he was at the airport, and as a habit, he sought out, he was like, what's the least likely piece of media for me to consume? And he found a magazine meant for Latin women. It was like Latina Weekly or something. And in the joke that he tells on stage, and I don't know if this is true or not, but it's a good segue, is the cashier didn't want to sell it to him. She's like, you don't understand what you're buying. He's like, no, yes, I do. And he reads this magazine, and then there's something in there that leads to the idea that next becomes his greatest exit. And so the idea that you need to expose yourself to the most amount of potentially synthesizable information because that leads to some level of alchemy, I think that there's a lot of validity to that. And it also speaks to the idea that markets aren't efficient, right? Because if they were, that actually wouldn't be an unlock. But I think this goes back to the second brain, because imagine if you had, the agentic capture of information and then the agentic synthesis of information and then the agentic identification of potential opportunities. I think that whoever did that, that would be huge. Now you're walking through life with your AI glasses on and you see a Ford Mustang I saw a classic Mustang for sale. I went to dinner or to lunch with my new septic business partner. And I had to text my brother, and I was like, is this worth anything? And he looked at the price, he looked at the year, and he knows everything because he knows everything about cars. And he goes, no, it's not that big a deal. But imagine if on your glasses, it's like, oh shit, there's 20% margin on that, especially if you do this and if you put that and if you take it to, what I don't know. Anyway, Dylan.
I think that was a good segue for what I wanted to bring up. The other day, Greg mentioned market inefficiencies closing more quickly due to AI.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned that in Nate B. Jones' video, he talks about that. And he proposed that arbitrage opportunities last as long as the current model, that the next update changes that. And Neil challenged me on that, but I will keep it at just our market inefficiencies close much more quickly. And the example he used was Claude using OpenClaw figured out that the prices on Polymarket updated slower than the prices on Binance and Coinbase.
Wait, say it again. The prices on Polymarket updated slower than the prices on Binance.
Yeah,
Okay.
for crypto.
Yeah.
So it basically knew what the price was going to be 15 minutes in advance. It turned $300 into 400,000. And so his point was that if you're using Opus 4.6 and everybody else is using Opus 4.5 and Opus 4.5 can't recognize that arbitrage opportunity, but 4.6 does, then you have the advantage as long as nobody else is using Opus 4.6.
Mm-hmm.
And then when everybody else
Nobody else, or as
realizes,
long as like 49% of people aren't.
I don't know. That's an interesting thought. I guess it wouldn't be one other person, like if one other
Yeah.
person was doing it. But if you are in some sort of competition, competing against them, then yeah, it would only take one other person for it to be like not a um the, what did you say in the septic business that you're like the high school all-star against the little leaguer?
Little leaguer, dude.
Uh,
I feel that way right now. I had a CRM conversation this morning, and they all have owned CRMs that live on a debt. My business partner was like, "What computer are we gonna buy?" And I was like, "For what?" He's like, "Well, where are we gonna put our CRM?" I'm like, "Dude, I can't even talk to you about this right now. Like, I cannot explain to you. I don't have the words that explain to you why that's irrelevant." That's so funny, Dylan.
so Mythos is kind of like the because Neil's argument was that the model updates aren't as big as they used to be. They aren't as big of a deal. But Mythos is a big deal, and like outside agencies who have no incentive to glaze Anthropic have said yes, Mythos is the real deal.
Well, hold
And
on. Let me push back on you for a second.
yep,
This is also marketing hype, and maybe it's real, and maybe those agencies don't know what the hell they're talking about. So,
the cybersecurity agencies don't know anything about cybersecurity.
in this context, it's entirely possible. Yes.
I really appreciated that exchange. I thought that was respectfully done. I like disagreements, and I like the way that both of you were held your
Yeah.
ground, but you still like did it in a way that I felt like
I
I got
don't.
how you
I
felt,
like
Jesse.
spiteful comments better. I'd be more entertained.
No, I thought
Yeah,
that was
go to
awesome.
hell, Neil.
Yeah. That
I
sounds
love that
better.
a lot. You know what it
But
reminds me of,
there,
Dylan? I'm looking at this article that you posted. It reminds me of playing Halo with my kids. I try to play Halo. We try to do cloud Halo, whatever that is, the subscription. And we always, at the minute I die. And it's because all the incels that play Halo for a living have like fast cars or fast computers and really rapid internet. And I just can't compete. So it's the same thing with the $480,000 made in 3 days.
and what is becoming, or what the discussion is in cybersecurity right now is that cybersecurity is becoming proof of work. In crypto, proof of work is like you put in this effort and you wouldn't have put in this effort to solve this whatever crypto thing if you didn't mean it. That you have to spend more on cybersecurity scanning than your attacker. That's like you have to spend more tokens scanning
And the
than they
attacker
did.
starts attacking.
And the so there's this test that's like a complete network takeover of an enterprise company. And it's estimated that it takes a human 20 hours to do it. And this is an expert human. No model has ever done it. Mythos did it 3 out of 10 times.
Wow.
Those 10 attempts cost $125,000. So you have to gamble that I'm going to spend $125,000 and succeed 3 times, but that was the same problem
They
10
cost
times, not
125
10
grand
different
each or 125 total.
total across all of them.
Okay. So
So
it's
like
12.5 an attempt.
yeah, 12.5 worth of tokens per attempt.
12.5 worth of tokens, and then what would we say? What's 125 divided by 3? 125 divided by 3 is so it's $42,000 per successful attempt.
And you have to be able to do that's you'd be shocked. People are way better at getting into things than they are making money off of getting into
Dude,
things.
you posted that. You were like they're like one of the biggest vulnerabilities or whatever, and they made $12 or something.
2.5 billion installs. They infected 2.5 billion installs. They made $50.
How did
Their
they make $50? Like, where did
their
that come
thing
from?
was that if you had this thing installed and you made a crypto exchange, it would inject its own wallet ID
Mm,
instead of the recipient. And it had a lot of logic to make like it had multiple wallets and it would try to pick the one that was closest to yours so you didn't notice.
mm,
Um, but then compare that to a more recent one, or they mitigated that very quickly. There was a more recent one that like the way it covered its own tracks after it installed itself and then hid itself in your system is like pretty was much scarier than the people who made $50 off of 2.5 billion people.
mm.
But yeah, so it's basically and that has a lot of implications, the who can spend the most, because then the way it works is by scanning the source code. If it doesn't have access to the source code, it doesn't work as well. So every open source software on the planet is vulnerable and the closed source is not. But then would you rather have open source that, say, JP Morgan, Google, and Meta are all using? And so they can collectively spend more on scanning that piece of open source software than their attackers can.
Mm-hmm.
Or do you try to hide it? It's a very like contentious thing within open source software right now. And there's an open source version of Calendly that went closed source in response to this, and are there's no clear consensus on what the solution is yet.
Greg
Game
used to be
theory.
a partner in a CPA firm called, I'll think of it. It's not one of the big four. But they were a big deal. They were like, it doesn't matter. There was a department in this, and I don't know why a CPA firm would do this. Neil, maybe you can tell me. There was
Paul
a
Crooks.
department in the
That's fine.
CPA firm with a bunch of kids, all, and I mean kids, like 20 years old, all of them, straight out of college. And their only job was to break into their clients' technical infrastructure. Like that's all they did is and 99.99% of all, because I talked to some of the guys and I thought it was like Trojan horse on the mainframe hacking the database. And like, no, it's all phishing. It's, Gwyneth at the front desk getting an email from the boss that kind of looks real. And they're like, we get into everything all the time. And I thought that was interesting. But it makes me think that maybe one of the fixes to this potentially is just outsourcing your security. Like, what if I paid a bounty? Because if all you're going to make is $50 and 2.5 billion installs, and it costs you 125 grand to crack me, it feels like there's an insurance play there where I'm like, look, I'll pay 10 grand to anybody who can actually find a meaningful vulnerability, across these levels of analysis if you do it in this way. And now I'm maybe covered in a better way. I don't know.
The second, sorry, I'm like, there's a line of hands behind me. The second one I mentioned that was much more sophisticated. They said that they had 10 multi-billion dollar companies that they were extorting.
Mm,
They ignored everyone else, which is
sure.
nice. But yeah, they were extorted. And of course, the companies aren't going to come out and say like, yeah, we were totally extorted.
Yeah. Hold on.
Uh,
There were three hands.
I don't know. I got a very interesting story on the same topic. If I don't know, I'm definitely not the first hand. So I just put my hand up.
Yeah. Well, who was my third hand that I just lost? Elliot, were you first or was Jacob first? Jacob.
I think Elliot and Wayne should go because my conversation is going to branch off a little bit onto the Opus. I wanted to talk about that a little bit because I shared this TikTok of this guy who's hilarious. He screams at his monitor and hits it with a little mini hand, and he's just ridiculously obnoxious. But he talked about Opus and how he's using it to basically use other agents to do things for it. Like it's the brains, and then like it delegates itself, which is kind of weird, but very interesting. So yeah, but anyways, I think you guys should go first because I want to talk about that a little bit, and then I wanted to mention one thing about one of the Apple updates coming soon.
His replies to comments are so funny. So, This guy's hysterical. All right, Elliot, you're up, and then Wayne, you're on deck.
I just wanted to add to Dylan's point about that hack. Yeah, they got over 2 billion in installs and they only got away with like $500 in Ethereum and meme coins. So it was quite in total. Yeah.
Wayne.
Yeah, it's good. We didn't get too far away from that story from Dylan. I thought it was fascinating. So I initially learned decentralized finance. I've been in crypto for almost a decade now. Big Bitcoiner, but I initially learned of decentralized finance when I already owned Bitcoin, was into crypto, 2019, right before the bull run of 2020. And the guy who had taught me, a very bright guy, but the method, he was able to make $100 million within a year, all just jumping in and out of crypto projects and not necessarily trading. I guess he was trading, but more investing. And this was his strategy, which he taught me in a private, small group. Like it was 4 of us, maybe even. That we all thought we knew crypto. We were having a conversation, and we could just see that this guy was all the way up here, and we were down here. And so we just shut the fuck up and listened, and then tried to piece together what he said. What he was doing was he was taking everything's open source. Everything was copies of another decentralized project, right? Still is to this day, but at that time it definitely was. And what he was doing was he had somebody who would go in, look at the copy of where the code came from, and quickly audit the code before it was actually able to get audited. So he would know, essentially, he would know that this project was clean based on the code, that it couldn't be a scam, couldn't be a hack, which was 99% of all projects at the time, still is in crypto. And he would jump in just on that fact alone, knowing that it was vetted, and he would have his guy full time. He had multiple guys actually, and they would just look at that right away because it was open source, check that it was a safe project, and then dump a bunch of money in there super early, and literally just cleaned up. I mean, it was probably within 6 months he made $100 million, to be honest, but it was definitely within a year.
That's brilliant. There's those little pockets, man. Like that's absolutely genius. I appreciate you sharing that. My business partner figured something out, John Moran. This is, dude, I cash a $30,000 to $40,000 check a month that I split with John every month and have for years. I can show you all the bank account. Not that anybody questioned me. And it comes
We
from,
believe you.
it came from this one thing. John, his wife, God bless. I don't know if I should tell this story. John's wife kept signing up for these MLM-y things. Like, she's the sweetest, most social human in the world. So it made a lot of sense. But like all the Mary Kay type stuff, but like somebody would show up and it would be like there was like a detox thing and then a skin cream and then a whatever. So and then it was always these housewives, to be honest with you, that would get sucked into these kind of con jobs, is what they looked like to me, where you had to buy all the materials and then you had to opt in and then you had to get people on your downline and then you go from house to house trying to sell whatever it is that you had. But more than that, you were actually trying to get them to join you. And Sam was actually really good at it because she was so smart and everybody loved her. But what John did, I thought was so brilliant, is all these MLM companies are fly by night and they pop up and then they disappear. And so John started bidding on their names. And the thing that they do really, really, really well is they get the word out there, that because they have to make all their money before they get shut down. And so he started bidding on their brand names in Google because they didn't know enough to make that not allowed in the terms of service. And then he would drive all the traffic to Sam's affiliate link. And I saw it, dude. He was making like thousands of dollars a month. And then sometimes it'd be tens of thousands of dollars a month. And it was unreal. And it wouldn't last very long because they would pop up and then they'd shut down and they'd pop up and they'd shut down. But they did it a few dozen times. And then High Level hit the market. And they were super fast, super early. And I remember asking John, I was like, dude, do you think they restrict brand bids? And so we went and we looked at their partnership agreement and they didn't. So we just bid on High Level's name before anybody else did it and drove it to our affiliate link. And it's so funny. I told Sean Clark this later. I was like, dude, this is all I'm doing. And I had some other little ninja stuff. We bid on Sharp Spring and whatever. And Sean was like, that's okay. Have at it. You're selling some installs. But it's kind of like what Jacob was asking earlier about the silver, or what this guy figured out with the open source software. It's like, if you know where the arbitrage opportunity is and you know it well enough to be able to make the trade, I feel that's about to happen with AEO in a big, big way. By the way, I need to talk to y'all at some point. I need to have the mic for a full day. I want to show you what we've done with AEO. We finally moved the needle in a way that works, and I'm about to freaking blow this shit up. Jacob, your hands up. Oh, Wayne, what were you gonna say?
No, I was just going to add one last thing there before we move on. From a opportunity perspective, I think we're at the same phase because, like you just did and John did, I did too. You remember a company called Magic Jack? Magic Jack. You plug the USB in to your computer, and then it was a telephone, like before there was VoIP.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was the original VoIP. Yes, I do.
Yep. So as an affiliate, we find these little pockets all over the place, especially early in the internet days. And this was like 2010-ish. So I went in and I saw that Magic Jack was bidding on their own term, Magic Jack. And I don't think it was restricted initially. It probably was after a while. And I just decided I'm going to bid on it too. But they didn't understand how the algorithm worked. So because I was said I'm going to pay the maximum amount per click, which at the time was $100 a click, I knocked them out of #1 position. The affiliate link still went to the same domain. So obviously Google is only going to show one of us.
Yeah.
And they were just gone. They were absolutely gone. And I blocked the state that their offices were in. And I think
That's the unlock right there. Is don't
ran for 6 months. Ran for 6
so-
months. It made thousands of dollars in profit every single day for 6 months without touching it.
Dude, there's so many little things like that if you just pay attention and spend some time doing it.
Yeah,
it's
but
great.
in emerging markets, and that worked because all this stuff wasn't figured out yet. Now every affiliate program says you can't brand bid for the most part, right? Everyone's on top of it. So the point is, I think we're at an early enough stage in AI that those similar opportunities exist. Are they worth your time? I don't know. It all depends who you are, but I think that those pockets exist, those arbitrage opportunities.
Yeah, I think you're right. Josh asked a really good question. He goes, do you think AEO will continue to exist in a fully agentic web? Won't tofu largely go away? I think tofu might go away for humanity. I think all that happens is you transition who you're talking to. So instead of talking to humans who are, first problem aware, then potentially solution aware, et cetera, I think you're talking to the robots. It's myself. I mean, what do I know? But that's what I'm banking on. Jacob, you're up.
Yeah, so and this is a little bit off topic, but Dylan brought it up a little bit, what's up with the Opus 4.6? Like this guy that I shared the TikTok for, he was raving about it, and I heard you mention it, Dylan, and then you say like 90% of people weren't using it, or was it something else? Did I mishear that?
No, we're on to Opus 4.7 now.
Right. Well, I'm saying, but I don't think most people are using it, right? And it's like a super powerful. Why is it more powerful than Sonnet? Like, what's the unlock there with Opus?
Opus has always been there. There's 3 levels: Haiku, Sonnet, and Opus. Speed to power. Opus is the like extended thinking model. Sonnet is the like medium. Haiku is fast and dumb. But apparently Sonnet is better at writing. Like if you want to write a blog post or something, you use Sonnet. And then Mythos is the 4th one above Opus, which is like I want to invent a new drug. Like it's like it is so wildly expensive and specialized that the average person will never use it. It's I think 10 times more than Opus, which is their current most expensive.
Okay, I got you. Well, I was just wondering because I know the only time I use Opus is I maxed out my usage for 1 month, 100%, just to train it on Alex Hormozy's 3 books, all the way through, and it told me it got to like 95.6% accuracy. Whether that's true or not, I don't actually know. But I was just wondering because I've always just used Sonnet and I've had really good results. But then after seeing this guy using Opus to delegate an army of other AI agent like workers, it was kind of interesting. So it must be much more powerful. But what I wanted to say was real quick, I saw an article last night from 9 to 5 Mac. I'll copy and paste it right now. And it's rumored that the iOS update for 27 for the iPhone is going to bring like a new Siri app to where you can have like chats in it, kind of like you do AI. But one of the things I don't know if you guys are aware of is that the iPhone has a thing called shortcuts in it, and it's incredibly powerful. I mean,
It's badass.
extremely powerful, but it's extremely hard to use too, and it's extremely time consuming. I built two last night, and it took me 2 hours a piece, even using Claude, because you have to go through and diagnose it and stuff like that. But it's rumored that late this fall, whether this is true or not, is that the Siri is going to have the ability to generate shortcut shortcuts for you based off of natural language, kind of like you see Claude Design or Claude. So this will be like, because I think we have half of the U.S. population almost uses iPhones, like 150 million. I think it's 1.5 billion people on the planet use iPhones. So it's going to kind of be like the next Claude or Claude Design, to where it's like a 50 to 75% of that kind of excitement or burst of creativity and usability and all this craziness. Um, I think it's going to be like the next thing. I've just kind of wondered, like, why? I mean, this is Apple we're talking about. Why are they so far behind? Because Siri hasn't been updated in like 10 years, it feels like. I mean, she's pretty much useless. Um, and it's like, why? And it's almost like, are they watching the other people to see what they do first to learn? I mean, because that's what Amazon did. I mean, Amazon had all these people come into their marketplace, build these products, wait for them to explode and be like, you know what? I'm going to build that product myself. And then I think they had class action lawsuits over it. And they said it just was a coincidence that we happen to make the same product as the most, the best products on our marketplace. I wonder if they're doing the same thing with like Anthropic and OpenAI. They're kind of just watching and just waiting to release the Kraken, if you will, of whatever they're going to do. I don't know. I'm just completely making it up, but it just seems like why haven't they not released something yet? This is Apple we're talking about.
I have a
I have a
friend.
hypothesis.
What was it?
I said I have a hypothesis. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. Well, I jumped in and you raised your hand. You're a better human than I am.
Yeah, sorry, Wayne. I have the something on this topic. I actually commented this on a YouTube video of yours. They stake their claim on privacy and not collecting data. And now we have technology that requires an exorbitant amount of data in order to train. And they're like, no, we're totally not going to collect your data. Google has been collecting, like, Google and Meta's behind, but yeah, they made a whole thing about how we're not collecting your data, and now they need their data. You can't renege on that. I don't know if that has to do, like, I don't know if that would affect Siri, but I mean, I guess it still does because it's usage data. Like, you need to know how people are using things and, like, did they like this response and all of that. And you know,
Right, because I remember hearing about that last year, about how Apple Maps would not remember where you went. It was frustrating. You could use Google Maps because it was constantly training off of your data and remembering you. So yeah, I didn't even think about the privacy thing.
I have a buddy who tracks job postings across all the Fortune 1000 as part of what he does. It's like a day trading type data play. It's as much as I can say without being a bad friend. Here's what's interesting about Apple. They don't have, they do, unless they built it in secret through a conglomerate that's adjacently owned by an umbrella company that's impossible to pierce the veil of, which I don't think a publicly traded company can do. They don't have the talent to build anything. So like everybody who's like, oh, Apple's waiting in the wings, or they're behind the scenes, or they're going to unroll their own thing soon. It's like they don't have the developers. So now, again, this is one guy, but because I was saying exactly what Stacy was saying. I'm like, they've got to have something, cooking. And this guy's like, if they do, I don't know who built it, because they do not have the talent. Because and it's a pretty interesting play that he makes. And what's really funny that I think about now is his business. He makes a significant amount of money selling this data, and now all of it is so scrapable. Like I could probably build an agent over the weekend that just does everything that he does and sells. Y'all, I have to hop. Does anybody want to take moderator from me? Do I have a victim and or a volunteer? Because I feel like the conversation's still going really, really well, but I gotta go.
I can.
Thank you, Dylan. Wayne, I'm sorry I wasn't able to stick around for your input. I'm sure it's brilliant.
No, you're good, and I'm glad that Dylan jumped in before, because I like to stay on topic, and mine's off topic.
Yeah, awesome. I'm gonna hop. If you're watching this, you can always join us live. Just go to dailysigh.ai and click join live, join the free forever community. The link will be in the calendar. We go live every single day at 6 p.m. Eastern. You can subscribe and get the updates daily and or weekly. I love you. I mean it. I hope you have a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday.
Yeah, so I'll throw my question in because my phone's probably going to die. Well, not even a question. It's just a spark of conversation. I don't know if anybody saw that, probably all of us follow Jake Van Cleef at this point. But he made a video the other day and said that he saw somebody else talking about how he's sorry for Hormozy fans and gatekeeping is back instead of giving away all information, right? Which I thought was very interesting. And I was like, that's odd. Now maybe I said that wrong. Jake Van Cleef said he didn't agree with it. That's what the original video said. And he's like, no, I think he's absolutely wrong and he's stupid. He's like, I'm giving away every single thing and I'm giving away tons of value. And this other idiot is probably just not giving enough value away, right? So then I happened to come across, I didn't even look for it. I came across the original post because that was going viral too. And the guy really said that. He's like, yeah, I think gatekeeping is back because anybody can take any of your information that's out on YouTube, scrape it, throw it in an LLM, and execute on it within 30 seconds, which obviously is an exaggeration for any of us who vibe coded anything. But I thought it was an interesting debate and convo to have. I'm on the side with Jake, and I wrote on his post. I was like, "There's no way. We're moving where all information is abundant and free. So you trying to withhold and hold it back as a marketer trying to sell something is dead." But I'm just curious of what everybody else's thoughts on it. I would love to see Kasim's too, but he just bounced. He had a hop.
Neil, do you have a comment on that topic, or are you?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm being called to dinner, but I do have a comment. So I agree with Wayne, I think, that, the entire internet has been available for in broad scale population penetration 25 years. Information has not been restricted for a long time. So it took more work before, that is true, to scrape somebody's content and then package something up around it. So it's easier now, but I don't think the fundamental value proposition changes because, like the video thing I was working on today, I would have paid my friend Mitch $3,000 to do that because I just looked at it as like, I don't want to do that. So, in my tax strategy network community on school, it's like I'm just putting out strategy, modules for free. The education is totally open. If you want us to do the work, then that costs, right? So it's just there is always going to be a scarcity of time and effort. And so there will always be an exchange to be made. Say, hey, you're good at this, so I'll give you money, you give me this result. And I don't care that I could do it myself if I taught myself and then built a system and then got 5 years of expertise in it. That's just not how life works.
I completely agree, and it comes back to who, not how, which is why I had to comment on this guy's stuff, and I just couldn't even believe it was kind of his mouth. He believed it. I'm like, wait, are you living in the same universe we are? There's no world where gatekeeping information makes sense anymore. Even if you hold back the tiniest percentage, you're just going to be at a disadvantage from a media perspective and visibility perspective versus anybody who's just giving it all away. Which I already know Kasim actually believes in the same philosophy, so didn't need him here for it anyway.
We might have to bring in a devil's advocate on this one. I think most of us will be in agreement. By giving it away, you show your expertise. The people who do it themselves were probably never going to pay you to do it anyway. And the people who are paying you to do it is because they don't have the time or just don't want to. And so Jake Van Cleef, like, we're all taking in what he has, and he's getting enterprise contracts. Like he's not losing at, like, yeah, I could scrape his school and implement it for myself. Like if I suppose if I just stole all of this stuff, I could eventually get an enterprise contract. But yeah, I agree with Wayne and Neil and Jake.
But you would be surprised how many people on that thread, and I'll post it. I'll pull it back up and post it. I think it was on Instagram, who were actually agreeing. I was kind of shocked, actually.
Jacob, do you have a comment on the same line of thinking?
Yeah, just to clarify, Wayne, are you saying that Jake Van Cleef was saying that you should gatekeep, or he was saying that you should give it away?
No, he said he should give it away, and his example was that's what he's been doing as he's just blown up over the last 4 or 5 days, and he's busier than he's ever been in his entire career. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see what Jason thinks about this because I think Jason, you're into like the storytelling too, right? I think that it's the give away the what and then sell the how. You know, I think it comes down to like packaging. The information has always been available and there's nothing new under the sun. It's just how you package it. So if you give like 85% of the information away and you leave just enough for people to be hungry, just enough to be like, I want to know a little bit more. Like I wasn't quite satisfied. I've got to come back for more. I've got to come back for more. So you're always stringing them out because if the carrot is dangling in front of them and they get the carrot, they're done. They've got the carrot. But if you just dangle it in front of them, there it's kind of like a game of storytelling that you play, and I've recently been studying this more and more and more because I've learned about like classical storytelling and stuff like that. And if you want to learn classical storytelling, one of the best movies is Jurassic Park is like a perfect example. Just watch a breakdown on how they did that film by Steven Spielberg. But it's the same thing. It's like just give 85 to 90% away and hold back 10%. So the person's like, well, I just wasn't quite fully satisfied. I need to come back for more.
So are you trying to play devil's advocate? Is that what's going on here?
No, no, no. I agree. I'm just saying that it's not just give it away, it's how you give it away. It's the packaging. It's like the people that do it well package it well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I've sold info products for a long time on this premise, but I do believe we're at an age where like it's literally abundant. It's more info is more abundant, as Neil was saying. It's been for a while, but not to this degree. It is easily accessible by anybody in seconds. While before, at least they had to do a couple hours of Google research to really get enough information to utilize the information. Right now, it's literally instant. So I don't know, but yeah, it was just a very weird perspective. I don't think holding back anything makes sense anymore. And at the end of the day, even as Neil said, the execution, yeah, there's people that want to pay for the execution. That's one part. I think what the value is, even the people that want to do it themselves are going to go way faster doing it alongside others in the community. And people are starving for community anyway. So that's a point of monetization, not the info itself.
I guess what like I'm saying is when you're having a conversation with somebody, let's say you're on a date, and like if I'm on a date with a girl and she asks me a question and I just spill everything, I give everything. Well, now the conversation is boring and it's just like, oh, okay, that was a lot. Whereas like if I just kind of slowly release information, like I'm giving away, but I'm not quite giving all of it away. I'm leaving a little bit of mystery to where she's like, I want to know more. I want to know more. I think it's the same thing. It's like, and I mean, that's what Alex Hermosi gives. He gives away 85% of his stuff, 90%. He doesn't give 100. It's packaged and you think it's 100%, but actually doing it and making it happen is a different story. So I think that goes back to the give away the what and then sell the how. Now, I'm no expert on it and I love it in theory, but again, I think it comes back to packaging. It's just how you package it to psychologically trick people or manipulate them, if you will.
Stacy, forgive me.
Can I
want to
add
jump in.
something?
Yep, go ahead.
Hey, thank you, Dylan. Hi, guys. I'm out in public, and
Hey,
so
Stacy.
I'll let you guys see me and where I'm at anyway. I'm out in public in front of a restaurant waiting for some food in my little town. So here I go. Anyway, so what I wanted to add was, and tell me if I say his name wrong. Is it John Van Cleef? John Cleef?
Jake Van Cleef.
Jake Cleef. Yeah, okay, Jake Van Cleef. So sorry, I had listened to him talking exactly about what you guys are talking about, and he follows, or his model is the same as mine, or at least the one that I purport to use. And what I mean by that is, he said something really important. There are a lot of people who want and need my help who are at a level that is not the level that I necessarily want to attract, and it's also not the level at which they can. I'm going to say it the right way, in which they can see or necessarily invest in the value of what I bring to the table. However, and I only say kind of what I purport because I'm not doing a lot of giving it away even to them, even though I like to, and I have a community that I'm repurposing so that I can do it. But here's the point. You do that and you get a lot of visibility like he's doing, so that the companies and those at a different level who need the value that you offer and see that they can get an ROI on it and can afford you at the level you want to provide value. That's a really good way to say it. Then they can see it. So that is his. I saw the very video where he explained. He said, people want to know, why do I do this? I do this because these people need me and they can use what I'm giving. And he did it really fast, just like that. And, but then the people over here, they see what I'm doing and they see the value, and then they engage me to do it. So I'm giving it away so the other people can get it. But the ones who need it for me to do it at a different level in a different way will see me. And I believe in that model very much so. So I just want to share that.
No, 100%. I would agree. And all the people that can't now, you're building your future customer base for when they have the means and the capability to pay for your stuff.
I'd like to reframe the meaning of holdback to relate to Jacob's delusion of insight that like you have to put more effort into filtering out now than in finding. And so if you define hold back as you decide what's important for them to know and leave everything else out, then I think that's almost a completely different conversation. But I think curation is going to, for at least the next, couple of years, like this is what you should be caring about. I think that is very valuable, and it's not gatekeeping, it's filtering, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's like a completely different conversation.
No, I think it's a good insight. I think it's on track because that's essentially what anybody who's sold information, courses, whatever, over the last decade or so, that's literally what they were doing. Most of the information was out there, but they were narrowing it down to the important, pertinent information and putting it in logical order to follow with the community, of course. I might disagree though that Hormozy is holding back any of his stuff with you, Jacob. I don't think he is. I think with the pure amount of content and everything he puts out, from what I could see, and I don't think he's holding back any information. I just think he's selling the implementation. He has people fly to his place, get one-on-one help.
Yeah, that's what. No, you're exactly right. When I say holding back, I mean there is a reason why if he gives away all of this valuable content, which I love, I use Alex Hormozy as like a source of truth. That way I'm not just chasing around so many people trying to find answers. But there's a reason why somebody will pay him $30,000 to jump on a 20-minute call. He hasn't quite given away everything, if that makes sense, because even though you think he's given everything, you're still gonna have questions. And to get those answered, you're gonna have to pay a lot of money, right? So he's giving away the what, but he's not quite giving away the how, if that makes sense. I just watched
I think it's
it sounds counterintuitive, but it's just there's a reason why I saw a clip of this guy that paid $30,000 to Alex Hormozy for a 20-minute call. If Alex Hormozy gave away everything, why would he pay $30,000 for a 20-minute call?
It goes
because
back
people.
to. Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
it's like I understand what you're saying, but I'm a special snowflake. Here's my situation. You tell me what to do in my situation. And that's what they pay for.
And there's
enough people.
That's the 100% I'm talking about.
But you can't give that away though, because it's personalized. Like if I made a YouTube video tomorrow, I couldn't say, this is how this advice applies to Jacob's business exactly. I can give you the general, and then either you can connect the dots, or you can say, hey, can I talk to you so you can connect the dots for me? If you look at a lot of his YouTube shorts and stuff, the stuff he's saying at these workshops is all the stuff from his books and videos and things. It's just that they need to be told in person or like some of it is unique. But yeah, they pay for the personalization, not necessarily a secret.
I agree. The personalization, but I disagree that we can't do that at scale now. With AI, we might just be able to, which I think is kind of an unlock and an opportunity for whoever figures it out. Is if you could have the in-between, let's say traditional courses, which sold the same information in the same order to every single person, right? Now with AI, they can get legitimately, with some of the tools that are out there, a customized course, including customized videos for them, their special snowflake, based on the questions that they initially answered. So I think it might be able to be done for the first time in history.
He
Yeah,
also revealed, I'm sorry, Jacob.
no, I was gonna say I think it just comes down to me as I need to communicate what I'm talking about better because what you just said, Wayne, answers it. It's is the 100% is the personalization. That is like that, and this is what I mentioned about agentic courses going into the future because even if you have a course with everything in it, it's only 90% because it's not personalized. Like you're still going to have questions. You're going to be like, well, this is unique to me and this and so many infinite variables, age, race, gender, location, finance, whatever, like just calculate it up. It's a lot. And that is where that personalization comes into. And I think agentic can do in the future, but that would be the rest of the 10%. So you see what I'm saying? But I think that you could give away the 100%. Like let's say, and this kind of a mistake I'm falling into early with making the YouTube videos is like if you niche down too much, it's almost a bad thing because you're not leaving any mystery. You're not leaving any like, well, I have a little bit more questions. Like you gave me so much value, but I don't feel like quite there. So I need to come back to your channel again to watch more videos. I need to come back to your channel and watch more videos. But they come to your channel and they're like, oh, well, all my questions are answered. Appreciate it, Doug. And then they're out. They're not coming back because there's nothing left to satisfy.
But that's not how we work. I mean, think about your own consumption, right? You just said like how many Alex Hormozi video, like he says the same thing over and over again, and we still watch because there's still something. There's a part of it we need the repetition. We need the next thing. Like it's like logically what you just said makes complete sense. Why would you go back? Why you got everything, right? Because we're just those human beings who need. You have to. I've watched Daniel Priestley give the same freaking talk over and over again, and each time I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. You really do need to do that, you know. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right. Case in point, I'm diving into Cassim, Marlon Brown Fabio's book and hiring process because it seems like a big unlock for me. And all of a sudden, I saw him pop up on my feed, and he had a $47 live training yesterday, and it literally was exactly the same thing that he said in his frameworks in the community, like just over the exact same thing. And if you find that when you dig into someone's content and you binge watch it, they say the same things over and over again. You know, that's kind of how it plays out. But we need to hear it as humans over and over again to actually take it in and hopefully act on it.
Clinton, do you have a comment on this particular topic, or can I jump in?
Yeah, so I think part of the problem that keeps that model going is that there are people who value their time more than anything, and they're willing to pay to protect their time. So they could go through all of Alex Hormozi's material, but would they rather spend their time doing something else? Just jump to how it applies to them personally, and their problem is solved.
Yeah, I would argue if you answered all of my questions in a video, I would subscribe and I would want to see what you have to say next. But if you did not answer all of my questions and I had to watch another video in order to get that last question answered, I would probably subscribe to the person who answered the last question rather than you. And this isn't a one-to-one to YouTube, but on Google there's a phenomenon called pogo sticking, which is if you click on a result and go back and then click on another result, that every result you clicked on until you stopped gets bumped down and that one gets bumped up. Not like literal rankings, but in whatever, you know, on a scale of a 0 to 100, 100 being the top rank, whatever. So
Are
it'd
you
be kind of
talking
like
about how they track how often you visit certain sites?
no,
Is
on
that the
an individual
mechanism?
search, if you click on a result and then go back and click on another result, that means the first result did not answer your question. Or at least that's what they presume. It's called pogo sticking.
Right, but part of that mechanism is they track how often you visit each site. So, like, I think we're talking about the same thing, just from different angles. No? Okay.
I'm not entirely sure. They have a patent for it, I'm pretty sure. I can look it up.
I guess what like I'm trying to say is I don't want to come across as I'm arguing to be right because I don't fully know what I'm talking about in this, and nobody really does because what I'm talking about is the infinite complexity of story. Is why do you when you listen to music you just know it sounds good. You can tell if it's good or not. Story is the same way. You can watch a movie or a show and you're like, I don't know why I like that show or I don't like it, but I just like it or I don't like it. And it's because story is so infinitely complex. You could write, like, have a bad story told well, and it will do better than a good story told badly, right? It's all about not necessarily the what, but how you're saying it, how you're telling it, how you're structuring it, how you're packaging it to where it's highly engaging, highly addictive. I want to come back for more. It's just always satisfying. And I hope, like, again, there's not really an answer to this question, but it's more of like a mindset of, okay, how do I become a better storyteller? I suppose.
I mean,
Don't ruin a good story with the truth.
it's valuable for you to have a different opinion than everyone else. Or I don't want to say everyone else. It's valuable for you to be on the opposite side of this discussion. So I don't feel guilty that you were like, I agree with your packaging part. I don't agree with the leaving a little bit out. I could see that in entertainment, leaving a little bit out, but not like if I watch a documentary and it leaves me on a cliffhanger, I'm like, wait, this doesn't quite fit. And also I wanted to add that Hormozy revealed during his last launch, he's doing these workshops to collect data sets to train AI. Like if he just put his books into AI, that's not the complete equation. He's connecting the device to individual businesses and scenarios. And that's the AI needs to know the application of these um things. And so like he gets all of this information on all of the businesses that come. He gets all their numbers, he knows their situation and everything. Uh so that's and they're paying him to collect their data, which is beautiful. That's the 23andMe model. You give them your DNA and you pay them to sell your DNA to the army. Um, yeah, so he does have more motivation for that than just the money. And I believe he even said that they're incredibly inefficient. Like if you the amount of time and effort he has to put into those compared to the money he makes, that he could grow a business much faster, more efficient. Like he has a better arbitrage with like growing nearly any business than running the workshops. But ultimately, if he has the most powerful small business AI to both either sell or use as a magnet, but also use in all of his own businesses, that's like a long-term billion-dollar play compared to the time and money uh, on the workshops.
Yeah, I think this is all really, really good advice. I think some of this stuff is more so to ponder on and to be constantly aware because it puts you in a position to adapt, I guess. Like that's more of so the benefit. It's just that the adaptation of how things slightly change. But interestingly enough, AI's taught me a lot about myself and people too. When you have a chat with AI, 95%, I don't know the actual number, and Dylan, you'll probably know the actual number of the context that we talked about is completely gone. Like it's just gone. But the human brain is the same way. I remember I was reading a book and it said if you want to learn this book, you need to read it 15 times because you'll only retain a very small percent by the time you get to the end. So you're gonna have to go back, read it again 15 times just to retain 100% of the information. So even though like you have information as a person, you have to receive that information hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, continuously, because your brain is constantly compacting and destroying information, if you will, or discarding it to where it's like a lot of and Costin talked about this. Most businesses profit off of inefficiency, and that is in itself is an inefficiency. Why should you have to read something 50 times Like it's just terribly inefficient, but that's how we work.
You also retain more at the beginning and the end than you do in the middle. Jason.
Hit the wrong button. I was curious, Jacob, just to know where your world is right now. Are you straight up like video production as your main thing right now?
As a matter of fact, I got a phone call from my buddy. He's probably looking to get help with a job, so I need to go in a minute before he gives it to somebody else. But yeah, that's mostly it. And then also going to school. But I think I might I wanted to go when I got out of the military. I always wanted to go to film school to learn how to make movies and learn the storytelling. But to be quite frank, I'm a bit disappointed in what I've learned.
Yeah, I mean it depends on it's such a roll of the dice depending on where you go. I happened to land in this tiny little school who didn't even have a film school on the in the books officially, but it was taught this little section by an actual filmmaker who sold his movie to Universal back in the day, and it was actually hands-on university instead of the theory stuff that the other schools did. And so, yeah, it can be, yeah, it all depends on that so much, I think.
So to answer your question, mostly video production, and then I have to have enough time to go to school. But it's kind of split me in the middle too, because I've learned the AI automation being bedridden for many months, and it kind of got addicted to it because it's the most. I'm a problem solver. I like to filmmakers are problem solvers. It's endless variables of how you could do it, right? And AI is kind of like that unlock right now, to where it's like you now for the first time ever, Dylan is a legitimate coder. He would have probably went through one keyboard a week, and a monitor once a month, just breaking things because it took all day just to get one line fixed. Whereas now, as you can do things quickly, and it's amazing. So that's kind of I'm in like a split thing right now because I really did enjoy the film school, but not so much now because it's more theory, and I just want to do. I just want to be hands-on. We do have a couple professors that are amazing that I've learned a lot from that are hands-on and have a lot of experience, but I think overall it just comes down to with that industry I've learned it's all or nothing. Like it's feast or famine. It's sell everything you own and live in a hut, and that's it. There's no in between. Like I'll do it a little bit, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's such a you have to be in it, and nobody get like in terms of like to get a job and get working in this stuff, nobody gives half a shit where you went. Like there's any school stuff that's certainly just for your own learning and stuff. But yeah, to find it, but it's also a drug and addicting, and it's the greatest thing in the world, and it will be your new family if you if it relates to you. And yeah, so I was just curious if because that's one side, the movie side, but then there's the video production side of things and all that stuff. And I was curious if you were in that world on the getting paid for the more the corporate video side.
Yeah,
Have
so I
you
worked with a UK crew a couple weeks ago for the first time, and that was a lot of fun. But yes, to answer your question, mostly the production side, but it's a little bit different than the film production. I have not actually done any legitimate film productions like movie making. It's all just been training, which has been great, but I've done quite a few um, productions, commercials, and mostly interviews. That's what mostly people want is interviews. Like this kind of lighting.
Mhm.
It seems almost impossible to people, but to me, it's just kind of second nature.
Yeah, cool.
have you considered applying your video production and storytelling to the service businesses? Like, have you considered unifying those worlds? Because that's like a great way to like for a while I was watching pond building videos. It was just like a dude with a GoPro in an excavator, and it would be like 30-minute videos. I would watch like three in a row, and the like lawnmower videos, like that they go up to the overgrown yards and cut them all up and stuff. Um, and then that guy, the Augusta Lawn Services guy, the that I showed you, his videos are very high quality, and when he goes and does his like Hell's Kitchen with grass cutting businesses, except he's nice. I think that that could be an interesting way to continue the storytelling and filmmaking that you like in a less competitive environment, because there's like movie studios and stuff compared to service businesses. And they don't want to film themselves, but it's clear that it's a good, like, I work for one of my clients is a jeweler, and I've been telling him to film himself working for 4 years now, and he's like, "Oh, well, it's a pain in the ass." I'm like, "This dude, Blackwood Studios or something, like he makes tables and shit. Have you seen him on YouTube?" Um, the dude is like less than an hour away from him, and he films himself making these huge, crazy table, like $30,000 tables. And I was like, just send the dude an email. He seems like a nice guy. Um, so yeah, they don't know how to film themselves. Like he's not exactly a service business; he's a craftsman. But yeah, I think that could be an interesting play for you if you're interested.
I'll tell you this. So everybody's use case is interesting, and people don't make sense. We're all extremely messy, and for me particularly, having that neuro condition happen scared the shit out of me, to be frank. To where it's like, well, okay, let's say I do everything hands on, and I'm doing that for years, and then it happens again, or something else happens, and it's like, and I know that you want to delegate and have a whole crew and stuff, but the problem is with this industry is it's the variables that come at you is almost too many, right? Like, and Jason's shaking his head, yes. Like it's like an extra 8 hour, 12-hour day can come out of nowhere. Like you're like, where did that come from? From the editing or a problem or a reshoot or having to do this, waiting on somebody. Like there's just so many variables. I think where it's going to, and I think people are always going to want to be on camera, but I think it's better to be in-house for yourself. Like it would be better for me to build another company with the knowledge that I have and then utilize that to my advantage, if that makes sense. Um, it's just yeah, it's just too many variables. That's all. I think it's just one of those things. Feast or famine. That's pretty much it.
Hey, Jacob, can I ask you a quick question? Can you tell us about your lighting and your equipment?
Well, I mean, I honestly, Jason's setup is pretty cool because it's a TV behind it and it's seamless, which is very fascinating. Um, because Jason's got a good front light, he's got a good hair light, and then he's got the screen behind him, which is probably giving a nice little rim light naturally. That looks good, really good. Um, Yeah, it's basically you just have an accent light and I don't even have this light on right now, but usually you have a kicker light, which is the same color as this light that's just shining on my face. So you would think that this light is giving the light to my face, but really it's a kicker light. And then I have this light, which is basically a basket on a clamp with a light going through it to put dots on the back wall. It has a blue gel, so it's blue. And then I have a grid box right here to where it keeps the light from spilling all over the place. So I get this Rembrandt look where it highlights my both eyes and then my cheekbone. If you have one eye covered, that's bad. You just want to have a slight glow, and that's it. That's pretty much it. And it's angled at like a certain way to where it's filling in and giving me a nice little jawline here, but it's also showing my eyes to where if I have my hat too low, you can't like this is bad, right? So yeah, it's fairly simple. I think it just comes down to a confidence thing, and Jason's probably seen this with people who are like, oh no, I have no idea. This is too much. It's almost like magic. It's like what you're doing right now is witch. It's like it's magic, right? I can never do it myself, and it's actually fairly simple. It's very, very, very simple.
Jacob also uses a $600 DSLR as his webcam.
Well, so this one it's more expensive than that, but it was dropped in the ocean and I don't use it anymore because of that, because it's actually like a $2,500 camera that's full frame. But having a full frame camera is going to give you a better depth behind you, which basically just creates more blur behind you, if you will. But you can also adjust that with the lens itself, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah, you can use a really cheap, I use, I mean, a $400 DSLR, but that is what's giving that depth and everything too. It makes a difference. But yeah, you can get pretty cheaply.
That is what interested me the most with Jacob's set, and that was what I asked him about, was the depth thing. I didn't know, well, at the time I asked you about it, your lighting wasn't as complicated as it is now. but like I didn't even really think about the uh intricacies of the lighting. I was just like, man, what webcam are you using? You know, like I don't think about the um and it's so funny how second nature it is to you, and like how much like I don't it's I mentioned the other day, like I don't know what I know. Like I just kind of assume everybody knows like uh how infinite memory works in a PC. Um Like whenever you were explaining it to me and you were telling me about the size of the sensor, and you're like, it's just physics. And I was like, I took physics 101 and 102. I had to take electromagnetism in order to get my degree. I have no idea how physics it is involved in that. Uh so yeah, that's I mentioned I think you could give some very high level advice on, I mean, I don't know. That's the whole infinite options thing. Um but
So,
yeah.
so I think it's again, it comes down to being able to utilize this for your own. So like for me, I'm going to go into the AI automation and system space because that's something that people are going to always want. I mean, you know this dealing with what you do with dev. Okay, so I'm like the toddler of a dev, right? But I have an iPad. You know what I mean? And so I can do incredible things that it doesn't require, like, you just know all of it, right? Like you know everything with the dev and all this different stuff. And so, but most people aren't going to want to learn how AI works, how systems works, how NAN works, how MCPs and APIs and CLIs, like they don't, it's just they have their job to do. And so it's going to be always something that people are going to want to need, because even if you watch a tutorial, and I watch a ton of tutorials on stuff just to get ideas and troubleshoot stuff, it's just infinitely complex, and it's almost like storytelling itself. And that's why I get addicted to the complex problem solving. I think that's what I'm addicted to. I rock climb as well. I it's when you have if you go onto a film set, you'll see you have a camera shoot on a certain codec with a certain frame rate with certain, write speeds to a card that costs, like my CF cards cost $400 a piece. And you tell this to people and they're like, how in the world? It's like, dude, if you just do it, you just pick it up as secondhand nature. So I hope I'm not going off track. I guess what I'm saying is, if I could summarize all of this up, is a lot of this stuff is just too complex for people who want to do themselves. That's all it is. That's all it is.
You
I,
look
I,
like
I
wildly more trustworthy and credible than I do in this current frame.
I don't think
Like
so. Again,
you're
I think if, and you're a dev, so the way that you think and you talk and you speak and stuff is going to be based off that wiring. But again, it goes back to, if you tell a good story and if you speak well and you make sense and you influence people, who cares what the lighting looks like? People won't care. Alex Ramosi on half his videos is in like that little alleyway with his nose tape, and he's wearing a tank top, and he just looks like crap, and he's just like giving the best advice in the world. And people are like, whoa, I want more of this. It's just how you tell it.
that was also part of his shtick though, is that he said early on, I want to look like this, but be able to sit in the room with these people because of my, I don't know, whether you believe it or not, your lighting and camera setup make like makes you look more trustworthy and credible
Oh,
than
it
the average
yeah.
the average person. And that's why I meant visually, like if you're looking across the line and compare you to me, my Microsoft 360 or whatever this is with my Zoom blur, that like that was all I meant. You did respond to that.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I really do.
And that is, and I do obviously this is what I do for people is like, them creating their shows and I try to, shake sense into them and they're not just like record their show on Zoom and kick it out there and have the because it does matter. We do judge books by the cover. Like yes, you can still get an audience otherwise. You can still be super smart and have people fight. But why fight an uphill battle in the mud when you can start off on a level? For me, I got to put all the stuff in the shiny. So, it takes a while for people to realize, oh, this guy doesn't know shit. See, but, by then I got their money. We're 6 weeks in, they're stuck. I've locked them in. I'm like, ha
Are we still broadcasting?
I hope so.
Let me double check. Because that's what yesterday I was like,
Like
hold on, let me live.
like
I
I said,
revealed a bunch of trade secrets into the transcriptions, and I have to tell
but this
Colin.
is fine. This is exactly perfect. I can give all the secrets away, and it's still people still hire me to
Oh, the model
learn.
still works. You know, you've got more to give. So it still works.
We are still live streaming.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go soon because I need to call him back. Because he's probably looking for me to work a job with him, which is great. But yeah,
Cool.
I think
I should
that
bounce too.
Jason knows this, and it's just not. It doesn't sound intuitive, but it's one of those things that when you're in the industry, you start to see problems of a lot of people don't value. You tell them that there's a $3,000 camera, like the cinema camera I shoot on is a $7,000 camera. People are like, oh my gosh, that's insane. You could probably make the most amazing movies. Actually, I could make terrible movies with it, awful movies, and you can make better ones on your iPhone. So, and again, I'm not disagreeing with Jason. I'm agreeing with you. Is that it comes down to the packaging, yes, but it's really important that you know how to tell the story. It's really important that you have one, two, three, four, five. It's laid out, and that you're making sense, and you have all of this that goes in together. But when you're in this industry, uh, clients can be not difficult, but they'll just be like, "Oh, could you just do this for me real quick?" And you're like, "Well, sure, that'll take an extra week of work." And they're like, "That, no, I don't think, I don't think so." You know what I mean? I think that, and it's just a very challenging.